It seems like outside in the world as a whole, there's some kind of trope, almost like a media-based trope, where the autistic person is too logical to have faith because faith isn't logical. Your concept of how logical it is to you and in your own life is based on your personal experience, where you are, what you feel. But there's a concept that as logical beings, we're not religious, and that if we are, it's more like a practice and less like a faith. This is what I'm running into. If you're running into that, or if you're running into something different, leave it in the comments. But what's surprising me is that I guess I would have thought it would be more of a trope outside of the community, and that enough of us inside of the community would be having the conversation, because I know some people who have been or are currently Christians or religious. They have some kind of faith. I'm a Christian. For me, it's not just something I do. It's not just a tradition. It is a faith. And it's not just I was taught to believe in this thing and so I do. So I want to come out and be the voice of one who is autistic and ADHD and of faith. Because this is not a subject I was particularly comfortable talking about, but it's of high interest in my life. It's a huge part of my life. And I'm looking around, and it seems like right now, all of a sudden I'm running into content without even trying, where Christians who are not sticking with the sort of hardcore doctrine that scares everybody away, including other Christians, by the way, they're just coming out. They're not sticking with the doctrines. They're not being religious to the point of absolute horror, like, on pain of death, thou shalt believe this thing. I'm seeing people who are more like me, who are sharing their humanity, who are not claiming to be perfect. They're not trying to wear any particular thing to show their faith. They're not trying to not wear any particular thing. It's not about that. For them, it's more about the faith, the connection with God, and biblical things. That's a complex subject. I feel like I've mentioned a million things that are branching off, and I'm branching them without trying. It's all connected. It's how it works in my brain. I see everything's connections. It's why I've never been, it's not that I'm not a fan of division, it's that I'm not a fan of it because I see how it works. I have a sense of it. I can sense it, by the way. It's not just the presence of my God I can sense. I can sense the presence of the spirit of division. But the reason why I don't like it is because I've never liked it because I can't relate. I don't see it that way. I don't get it. And a lot of this stuff is just semantics. It really is like the constant war between science and religion. Honey, the majority of this stuff is literally the exact same thing, and someone has just decided to name it something and then create imaginary lines where they're like, no, but this is science. I'm not gonna lie. I've heard a lot of people say, you're not having a religious experience, you're having a psychological experience. That's probably the best example, because depending upon how you choose to translate the Bible, you could say the Bible is a supplement filled with information about the psyche, the mind, how to behave, what to do, what not to do, what the effects will be if you do things, what the effects will be if you don't. And in my personal experience, with a lifelong interest in psychology also, they're the same thing. They are just varying terms for the exact same thing. It's, I don't know, it's like that which we call a rose by any other name. You can call it a rose, or you can call it a poop swirl emoji, or the real thing. You can call it a living, breathing, seeping, steaming rainbow poop swirl right in front of your face. You're still gonna feel really weird when you're calling it a poop swirl and you want to smell it, because it still smells like a rose and it still looks the same. So I don't really have a tendency to do that. I watch my words like crazy because I grew up in this world autistic, and I understand how people like to react to things and process things. And it was my job and my burden to learn their culture in order to survive. But it's not my culture. My culture is to see the connection. I don't care if it's a culture of one. It's who I am, and I believe it's who I'm made to be. Because it sure did, did just come out of the gate this way. And when I'm not pretending for other reasons, when I'm not experiencing pain, sorrow, trauma, when no one's When I'm not, when I'm safe, that's who I am. I see the connections. So I can hardly care about creating a false sense of division between one thing and the next. And for me, I really don't care about trying to create a false sense of connection between the essence of God and the essence of any individual or group of human beings. Individual human or group of human beings. That didn't feel right. For me, there's a difference. There's always been a difference. And if I had been personally conflating every human being I've run into, or every group of human beings I've run into, with my faith, I can guarantee you I wouldn't believe either. I would 100% be agnostic right now. Because it is outside of that, outside of the sensation I have, I think it's the most logical thing. I think on paper, that's the one thing that makes the very most sense if you don't find any good whatsoever in any type of godly belief system. Like if you look at Christianity and you're like, pff, that's magical thinking, etc. I don't know, I honestly don't know what to say, and this is why I've never been a preachy type person. I always assumed as a very small child that because I believe in something for a reason, if someone else believes in it, they believe in that for a reason. So I'm not trying to convince people outside of, their own lives, their own experiences. But I will say, if I'd had to go by the human beings I've run into in life, I wouldn't believe in basically anything. Because without the sensation of God, I don't know how you can believe unless you're one of these people who sees a change in your life. I've heard people say they got saved and they just do better. Like, picked up the Bible and I noticed this, that, and the other that I liked. I changed my life. It adds balance. It's meditative. I just appreciate it and I stick with it because I see better changes in my life. That's something I've noticed, by the way, that I actually do see better practical changes in my life with it. But in all reality, because of the behavior of the Christians, if I said these human beings are the effigy of God and they have to be the same thing, I wouldn't be able to believe in any religious group either, including Christianity. It's not because I was raised that way. Definitely not. I think a lot of human beings who are no longer Christians, and hopefully a lot of truthful ones who are still Christians, would easily be able to understand that being raised in the church is not always a reason to stay. It's very often a really good reason to leave. But I feel like I'm about to make 50 different videos. And I think that my main point, my throat's a little dry. It's like a stress rumble. I've been sitting here trying not to hyperventilate. Hope I looked at the camera at some point because I was meditating into the non-existence of distance right there for a minute. But long story short, that's basically what it is. And when I'm not sitting here freaking out because I know the difference between the God I'm feeling all the time and all of the people, so I'm busy thinking about all the people right now, I'm 100% certain the sensation of God is not giving me the anxiety. I'm just putting myself out here because I feel like it's time for me to share. I feel really like it's time for me to share. I don't know how much more I'll go into this. I don't know if anybody who's watching will care. If you care, I invite you to tell me in the comments. I want to relate honestly. Because I don't think I'm the only one either. I haven't been hiding that I'm Christian, but I've been kind of hiding that I'm Christian because I live in peace and I want peace. And I have noticed throughout the course of my life and the way I was raised and the experiences that I've had, a lot of people are triggered by the very word Christianity or the concept of our God to the point where the only thing you can't have when you share it or when you're asked and you divulge it as truth, is that peace. So I'm putting myself out there for anybody who can relate, because I don't see how we have community if we don't know that the rest of us exist to form one. Hopefully this will help somebody in some way. My real hope here is just to help somebody understand what one person who's autistic has to say on all the different subjects I'm talking about. And this is the mother subject on the hilt. Because I've got to tell you, more notes on growing up in the Christian church and how that could have affected me if I didn't have a personal relationship and constant sensation with my God. I have a lot of unpopular opinions. I have a lot of opinions and beliefs that are based more in the Bible and somewhat on what I didn't realize I should honestly be referring to as gnosis, just from my journey through this life. But basically, I have a lot of unpopular opinions. They haven't been popular in the church. I don't entirely know why. Some of this stuff is obvious. We're dealing with a clearly and obviously multiply translated Bible. The concept that people who can't even read it in its original text and aren't studying from the people who can read it and are teaching what it literally actually says. There's so much argument about what in many cases might actually be a weirdly intentional mistranslation. I 100% believe in the point of it, but a lot of the minutia is probably a weirdly intentional mistranslation. And it seems like a world now where you can say that and there's a possibility that somebody's going to understand, truly understand, if you see what I'm saying. So, pretty sure I've said everything I need to say. I'm running out of steam. I'm about to lose all my words, and so I'm going to try and get it all out in one breath. Thank you for having coffee with me. If you've got any thoughts, leave them in the comments. I needed a breath. If you think anyone else will get anything out of this video, please share it. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And I don't say this out of cliche, but I mean it. God bless us all. Thank you for listening. That's about it. Have a nice day. I almost forgot my outro. Yes, that's what was taking place. I was forgetting how to speak.